assistant professor at the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. She took her bachelor's degree in biology and Master of Science in Wildlife Studies at the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. At present, she is a candidate for a Doctor of Philosophy at the Muséum National d'Histoire Naturelle at Paris, France. She co-authored and authored several scientific articles and have presented posters in scientific conferences. And she is also a regular member of the National Research Council of the Philippines, Animal Science Section, Cluster 4, Wildlife Disease Association, Asian Wildcat Conservation Network, and Biodiversity Conservation Society out of the Philippines. Without much further ado, please join me in welcoming our resource speaker, Assistant Professor Dez Antoinette Palier Fernandez.
So this is us. I'm just going to present some of the results we had in the first phase of this project. So I'm very lucky to have been a project staff for Conserve Kaigangan during the first phase. And even up to now in my thesis, I'm still working in forest over limestone, this time in Palawan naman. But now let's discuss the kaigangan of Calicoan Island in Guiuan, Eastern Samar. So first of all, as we saw in the introductory parang video na may voiceover na baka familiar sa yung boses ng voiceover. So yung forest over limestone is kaigangan. And these are the major foci for speciation, and they serve as important biodiversity arcs. And they contain unique species because of their unique topology, as you can see here. So they are literally forests growing over limestone. But despite the high species endemicity in these forests and their environmental heterogeneity, itong mga forests over limestone natin are more vulnerable because they recover slower due to their relatively dry habitat and their shallow soil. Okay, and the damage can be irreversible once done. And this is especially true for Guiuan Eastern Samar, which has been hit by many typhoons, usually annually, and particularly badly by Typhoon Yolanda in recent memory. And much of the municipality, including our study site dito sa Calicoan Island, is actually within a protected area called Guiuan Marine Reserve Protected Landscape and Seascape, or GMRPLS. And this protected area is notable for its rich marine resources, kaya siya Marine Reserve Protected Landscape and Seascape, which are utilized by local residents, the academe, and surfers. Yes, surfers, because Calicoan Island has big waves that are crashing onto the bay. And there are beaches like ABCD Beach, and usually the surf season is from April to November. And this area has actually been dubbed the surfing capital of the Visayas. And various surfing competitions were held here pre-pandemic. I'm not sure kung meron na ulit ngayon post or kind of during pandemic. Let me know in the comments below if meron na ulit na mga surfing competitions sa Calicoan Island. I'm very excited to know kasi ako rin ay surfer. So I very much enjoyed studying in this particular study site. Okay. So in particular, so yung area ng Guiuan is also famous for its history of being a strategic location for American forces during the Second World War. And close to 100,000 US soldiers were assigned to Guiuan Air Base at the time, including one particular US soldier named Nathan S. Potter III, who did the only published study previously of the terrestrial biodiversity in the island, and particularly focused on birds. And although Guiuan is rich in terrestrial and marine resources, most research conducted here have been focused on marine plants and algae because it is a marine reserve. So what we wanted to do was to evaluate the floral and faunal composition of the forest over limestone in Guiuan. And what we did was we conducted a biodiversity assessment in the area last October 2019. And of course, you should know that before that, when you do any research on any wild flora and fauna, you need a permit from DNR. And if your institution has an animal care and use committee, you should also consult with them. So, kailangan ng permit sa DNR, of course, called the Wildlife Gratuitous Permit. And since Calicoan Island has the largest continuous forest over limestone in GMR-PLS, we set up 9 of these 20 by 20 vegetation plots across the island. You can see here on this map made by Ren. Thank you very much, Ren. In areas like different barangays like Pagnamitan, Ngolos, and also near Linaw Cave and some other areas. Okay. And then what we did in this, we used 2 types of methods to determine plant composition of each sampling site. So you have the quadrat or plat technique that was used to assess trees that were 1 meter or taller, and the line intercept technique that was used for smaller understory plant species. The methods that we used for funnel assessment were adopted and modified from the Biodiversity Assessment and Monitoring System, which is a set of standard protocols used by DNR in all protected areas across the country. And some of these methods include a simple line transit count for the survey of birds, wherein we used binoculars and cameras to identify and observe bird species. And to capture birds and volant mammals, we use 12-meter mist nets, or sometimes in areas of the forest over limestone na medyo masikip or medyo steep yung areas, sometimes we do 6-meter mist nets na, dalawang 6-meter mist net na magkadugsong and at an angle. And then we set them along possible flyways such as forest edges and feeding trees. And to capture small non-volant mammals, so ito yung example ng forest edge and flyways. And then to capture small non-volant mammals, such as this one, we use steel box trap baited with roasted coconut and peanut butter, so shal. And for herpetofauna, they were either hand captured or retrieved from pitfall traps, as you can see in this photo. And then for larger wildlife, they were mostly detected using indices of presence, such as feces or footprint, or we also used a few camera traps. And of course, all captured wildlife were carefully handled and released in their site of capture after species identification. And this is not an easy task, particularly in Kaigangan or forest over limestone. As you can see here, this is a photo of our team traversing difficult terrain, which includes dangers such as sharp rocks or deep ravines. And yeah, so minsan yan yung may encounter mo sa field, may mga bangin portion, so you have to be careful in this particular environment. And for our results, in our fieldwork, we recorded a total of 41 plant species belonging to 18 families, and 5 of these were Philippine endemic species. And 9 species had a threatened status based on the IUCN Red List. And there were 5 species of threatened status based on the DNR DAO 2017-11. So that's the Philippine Red List of threatened species of plants. And here are some of the threatened or unique plants that we found. So this is was Wallacea dendron celebicum, and this is a vulnerable tree species, and it's harvested for its good quality timber, which is usually used for furniture making. Unfortunately, because of this, as mentioned, it's categorized as vulnerable based on the DNR Red List. Another example is Aquilaria cumingiana, commonly known as agarwood. It's found in the Philippines and Indonesia, and it's highly prized for its fragrant resin, and it's utilized for various economic uses. And unfortunately, due to overharvesting leading to its rapid decline, uh, it's categorized as vulnerable as well by the IUCN and also the Philippine Red List. Okay. And then finally, we have Hansea wenzeliana, and this is a new locality record of this Philippine endemic tree species. So based on literature, its native range is only in Mindanao Island, but the occurrence of this tree species in Calicoan Island is not surprising since Samar is a constituent of the Greater Mindanao Pleistocene Island complex. Speaking of which, so in terms of faunal diversity, we recorded 21 vertebrate species, and six of them were Mindanao pike or Pleistocene aggregate island endemics. So this includes one amphibian, eight reptile species, six bird species, and three volant mammal, and three non-volant mammal species. Okay. So yung basically yung Pleistocene aggregate island complexes. So Mindanao and Samar share many endemic species and common because they were theoretically a part of a single larger landmass until umakyat yung sea levels after the last ice age. So theoretically, before the last ice age, mababa yung sea level. So Samar and Mindanao and other adjacent islands were all one big landmass. So that's your Paik or Pleistocene Aggregate Island Complex. And so, may mga pictures dito. So, kung takot kayo sa frogs, lizards, and snakes, trigger warning, may mga pictures dito of frogs, lizards, and snakes. But don't worry, cute naman sila. So, here are some of the examples. So, we have here si Platymantis guentheri, or Gunther's wrinkle ground frog, which is a Mindanao pike endemic. And some more individuals were found on fallen logs, but most of them were observed perching actually on karst substrates. Tapos tatalon sila into limestone crevices para magtago once they're disturbed. And this species is currently listed as least concern in the IUCN, but it could be an important indicator of the health of the karst ecosystem since they are sensitive to environmental changes, being terrestrial frogs. And another one here, oh yeah, medyo nakakatakot yung itsura niya, pero also very beautiful is the also extremely venomous Tropidolemos sabanilatus, or the North Philippine temple pit viper. This is an apex predator, and ang ecological role niya is it controls the population of its prey species, such as rodents or other smaller herpetofauna, ganun. And then another one here, okay, ito medyo interesting. This is Bronchocella cristatella, and this is a green crested lizard. And fun fact, usually bright green siya, pero nag-change color siya into dark brown when they are threatened. So, nung nahuli namin siya, green siya, and then eventually nag-change siya ng color. So, this is actually, in this picture, the same individual. And then nung naka-relax na siya ng konti, green na ulit siya. Yan, so that's very cute. And then finally, we have Certodactylus sumuroi. Okay, so si Certodactylus sumuroi, this is a new island record for the species in Calicoan Island specifically. And they've only previously been found in Samar Island, the main island of Samar. And some individuals are actually found hiding in limestone crevices talaga. And this gecko has a pair of canthal stripes. So on his face, meron siyang stripe. And then on the back, meron siyang light light colored bands na may bow tie shape. So yung parang bow tie shape sa likod niya, that's one of their distinguishing features, and also yung measurements nila, of course. And it's not yet in any endangered species list because wala pa masyadong data about it. So it might require further study to assess its conservation status. So if you're maybe interested in studying this further, if you're in Eastern Samar, so mahanap niyo sila sa Calicoan Island, kuha ng GP, and then maybe you can do your thesis on them. And then for birds, we found your Hypsipetes Filipinos, or your your Philippine bulbul. It's endemic to the Philippines. And another bird is your Monticola solitarius, or your eastern blue rock thrush, seen here perching on some limestone. So you can see that the animals are really using the limestone for maybe perching or maybe hiding in the crevices minsan. And both of these species eat fruits and insects, and they help shape the ecosystem by dispersing the seeds and maybe controlling the population of their insect prey. And among mammals, we found Tenocyrus minor. Okay. And this is called the lesser musky fruit bat, and this is endemic to the Mindanao Paik. And then for your non-volant mammals, we have the Philippine endemic Ratus evereti, or the Philippine forest rat. Okay. And ang signature feature nila is usually they have a white tip. Yung tail nila is gray, tapos white sa dulo. And strangely, actually, one of the problems that we encountered in Guiuan in particular is that in the traps, sometimes they would be occupied by crabs or hermit crabs, presumably attracted to the scent of the bait siguro, yung coconut with peanut butter, mabenta siguro talaga siya. Although this is not surprising since some of the study sites were very close to the seashore, kaya siguro. And also at the time, sobrang daming crabs nung nag-assessment kami. So baka kaya maraming na-attract din sa bait namin. And then, yeah, so that's it. So in conclusion, generally, the forest over limestone in Calicoan Island is young and dominated by saplings and smaller diameter sized trees. And yung species richness niya is below average compared to other tropical forests in Southeast Asia. And this could be attributed possibly to the possibly that the forest over limestone is still recovering from previous typhoons. And also, as the ecosystem continues to recover, yung information gathered from this research can be used in recontextualizing tourism management strategies to become more eco-focused. And for example, some of our study site is near Linaw Cave. So from the word itself, malinaw yung tubig sa loob. And this is a popular local tourist attraction. And the trail to the cave would be a great bird watching area if managed properly. And we think that furthermore, Guiuan's reputation as the surfing capital of the Visayas, it could attract more tourists as the world opens up again. And then it could in turn encourage more development on the island. And it would be best, I think, if this could be closely monitored and managed to conserve the biodiversity of the area. Yan. So, ayan. Magandang rainbow para sa magandang kinabukasan for Guiuan and Calicoan Island. And yeah. So if you want to learn more about this study, this has actually been published in a journal. You can read it for free in the Journal of Marine and Island Cultures. It's the volume 9, issue number 2. So type nyo lang, Calicoan Island, lalabas yun doon. So if you want to download this paper, and yeah, I think disseminating knowledge about the biodiversity in Samar's forest over limestone, it's going to be crucial for gaining local and international support for conservation and protection. And before I end this webinar, we would like to thank. Okay, for this project, it's under UPLB with the partnership of Samar State University, uh, the Department of Science and Technology, Picard, uh, of course, the PAMB of GMRPLS, the municipal government of Guiuan Eastern Samar, and of course, our partner organization bosses, and of course, ESU now as well is now part of our uh, project. So that's all. Thank you very much.